Hey, you guys. Welcome to the Sky Studio podcast. We're here. We're live with my friend, Caleb. Introduce yourself.
I'm Caleb.
Period. So listen, right out the gate, they got to know what they're getting into. They got to know. They deserve the truth. Introduce yourself as your red flag.
So my red flag would be, and the boys group chat could testify to this, is I don't know how to flirt.
Can we insert like a dun dun dun? Okay, listen, to be fair, doesn't that like the male mind is not fully developed until you're like 25?
Wow.
It will come. It'll
That's
come.
wild.
Listen, you wait on the Lord and it'll come.
I remember there was this pickup line that I was telling.
No.
And it was, do you like water? And then she would say yes. And then I would say good because I'm 72% of it. Wait. It gets better.
God.
And then after that, I would send her a video of me drinking water.
No.
And saying, I take that back. I'm 73% of it.
Caleb, not a serial pickup line. Who does that? If so you've been affected by this pickup line. Never ever that. If you've been affected, I'm so sorry. We will pray for you. Comment below if you've been affected by this pickup line. Honestly, I'm so excited to have him here. Listen, let's tell him a little bit how we met, our origin story, like if you will. Go ahead in your own words.
So how we met is Mama Tiffany knows everybody.
Listen, one thing about me, two things for sure. I'm gonna introduce myself. Okay.
So she knew my mom. She would give my haircuts to my mom.
Tammy. She really did that.
She would give haircuts to my mom, and then my mom would bring me along. I would get a haircut.
He'd sit there for hours.
Honestly,
I was gonna say like a champ, but not really. He was mad. No, listen, this is it. Like he was mad at life, and I could tell he was a troubled teen. And which is hard for me because I want everyone to have a good time, and I'm like, this boy, like he would not smile, not do anything. And then one time he had to bring his little brother, and my man showed up in a full like a cast. Was it like your freaking hip to your ankle?
Yeah, it was from the top of my hip to the bottom.
Well, I mean, full cast, or I don't know what you call it,
brace.
And brace. That's I'm like, because it wasn't white. It wasn't white, and then he sat there through his little brother's highlights. Shout out, Kason. So he sat there through his little brother's highlights, and I could feel it. Like even he was so happy that like he was blonde, you know? And you were like, you're.
Is
like,
that it?
Yes, like he didn't give him any hype. He didn't like let him have his moment at all. But then the next time, this kind of where it gets good. So the next time he came, like I could tell like he was just totally different. Like his demeanor, he was happy to be there. I'm like, I knew I would grow on him. I mean, that was part of it. But then like the second part was just like, it was just so evident. Like I don't know what it was, but he was just different and like pleasant to be around. Imagine that, you know? And so I'm cutting Caleb's hair at the time, and I'm kind of just like, I don't know why. Well, we know why. God puts it in my heart to share with him, like of all people. Like I'm thinking about, I don't know, God put this podcast on my heart, and I think this is what I want to do, but like I'm scared, and I'm going da 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 da. You know how and Caleb looks at me like square in the eyes, and mind you, like I mean he's a young man. I mean it's just slight age difference, you know, whatever. And he looks me in the eyes, and he's like with the conviction of like I can't even describe. He's like, why aren't you doing what God told you to do? When I tell you I didn't have words, and that says a lot. If you leave me speechless, because there's not a valid answer. There just wasn't a valid answer. And I think that's when that confirmation started coming through for me. Like, oh God, now you're just out here standing straight. Like somewhat of a stranger, you know, like strangers to confirm. And I'm like, I can't deny it, you know? And so one thing is like for your friends have known you your whole life to like hype you, back you up, as they absolutely should, as they should believe in you. Because if they aren't, what are you even doing? But then another thing is just like, I don't know, there was something so like sincere and undeniable about, I don't know, that feeling. Like that haunted me. That haunted me until I did it, you know? And so, first of all, thank you for just always saying what it really is. I mean, hurtful or not.
Yeah.
But tell them about kind of what had happened, like between the time I saw you. I mean, like true, like Saul to Paul, from the time I saw you and to the next time when you're like Was the brace still there? Or no?
No, that was after my second knee surgery.
Okay, all right, tell him.
So the first time, before I came in the second time, I was out there hanging around the wrong group. I was probably like, if it was after my second knee surgery, I was a junior in high school. I was hanging around the wrong group. I was I would pick up drug dealers and take them to where they buy drugs and then bring them back to the school to sell drugs and then get paid
real
for
life,
it.
y'all. This is real life.
And then between then and there, I just went through like a really bad depression, especially after my 2 knee surgeries. There was just a lot of moments to where like I couldn't move. Like I was just staying in my room.
Yeah, and that's big because also just more context. Like he's an athlete.
Yeah, something like that.
He is. He's an athlete, and so like that hits different when that's your life too.
Yeah,
you know?
it's what my brother was a D1 football recruit. My mom played softball. Like she runs marathons. Like that's what I grew up around. So for me to lose it, it was like I don't know where to go. And so there was moments where I would sit in my room and like you can't move, and it was like, man, why am I here? And there was moments where I was considering like, the pills are just sitting right there. Like, what if I just take my own life? And then after I got done with my knee stuff, I went back, played football again, tore it again.
No.
Had that same week that I found out that I tore it, my grandma was I overheard her on the phone saying that the cancer was getting like worse, and then my girlfriend at the time had just broken up with me. It was like a really bad situation. There was people saying that she was cheating on me, like really bad stuff. And then on top of that, I had lost my best friend to a suicide, and my grandpa had died of old age. And so there was a very times where I was like, man, I don't know what to do.
Just like dark, like from bad to worse.
Literally.
Yeah.
And so I remember people at the church knew me because, you know, I'm like you, I just go everywhere. So
kind of.
maybe not as bad as you are.
Different fun, or like what do you call it?
So people at the church knew me. People at the church knew me, and I went into the gym, my older brother's gym.
Let's shout him out real quick.
Corey. Shout out Corey, Dream Performance.
If you're in Fort Worth and you feel like dying, but also best shape of your life, best workout you'll ever have.
For real.
I'm scared to go back, y'all, truthfully. Like, I just am. I am.
No, he's incredible. He gave me I was telling him I was going through a tough time, and he gave me a key to the gym. So one night I went in super late. It was like midnight, right after I finished at my best friend's funeral. I went in and I started crying in the middle of the boxing ring, just crying. And then out of nowhere, one of my best friends to this day, his name's Jacob, he called me and was like, bro, what's going on? Like, where you at? And I don't know how I ended up at the gym. To be honest, I was probably high.
Yeah.
But I was at the gym, and I remember sitting in the gym, and it wasn't like there was a big crowd. Like whenever I got saved, I wasn't in a big crowd. I wasn't at a church.
You weren't at a church.
Yeah, I wasn't at a church. I was literally in a gym in the middle of a boxing ring, crying my eyes out. And he calls me, and literally he just tells me to say Jesus. And so I sat in the middle of the boxing ring. I got there at like 12 o'clock. I didn't leave the boxing ring until about 4 o'clock. I was just crying out Jesus. Like the whole time I was just crying out Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And it was an overwhelming sense of peace. Like I realized that I don't have control over what happens anymore. Like there's nothing I can do. And it was like I was just laying flat, and it was like there was nothing I could do. I just stopped crying, and like I just got a sense of joy and a sense of peace. And I was like, man, God's real.
He's so real, and he's so timely. Because again, and for someone who might not believe in God, or it's a coincidence. Like, I'm sorry, that ain't no coincidence. Like, I'll ever, like, there's just no way that, like, at the right exact time that you would need someone, at the right exact time that I needed encouragement to do this, to start this, like, you're there, but it's just like people, like, as we continue to allow ourselves, like, God, how can I be a vessel today? Or like, I've submitted my life to you. Like, it's just so natural. You know what I'm saying? Or like, it's supernatural, but like, I don't know. that timing is crazy.
Yeah. And one of the most important parts of that story that I love is that the moment that I got saved wasn't in front of anybody. I was all alone in one of my darkest places. And number one, it made me realize, like, if you're watching this, you don't have to be at church to be saved. You don't have to be in front of a ton of people to be saved. You literally just have to accept him. Right. And then the second part was that God's going to send you trials so that he can find you. So it's like God's going to send you those hardships. So who was it? I think it was Peter inside the boat. And whenever he threw over his net, God could have easily put fish inside the net, easily. But God was making him go through that hardship of not catching any fish just so that God can prove his grace and mercy. And I was like, man, it's powerful.
And I love what you're saying, and like, let it serve to encourage someone who, like, maybe that's not your vibe. Like, it could not be to, like, one, be caught in a church at all, but two, to like public display, because it's so intimate. Yeah. And I love that you have this moment, this memory, and that you're sharing it, you know, to encourage someone else. So, like, if it's in your bedroom, like, if you're watching right now, if this is moving your heart, like, whenever this finds you, like, if you're driving and you're listening to this, that, like, he is so everywhere all the time, that he's like, I love the verse that talks about, like, he leaves, like, the 99 for the one. Yeah. You know, so, like, yes, there is a lot of need in this world, and people who are sick, and I mean, all kinds of, like, evil in the world. And so I think sometimes people downplay it, like, well, I don't really need God. Like, I'm all right. I'm okay. Yeah. Like, you know, I got my little, whatever, 4-bedroom house, like, 2 kids, happily married. I'm not talking about myself. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, you're like, no, I'm good. Like, we're good. But, like, even if you're good, like, you're good. I say this all the time. Like, my best day without God doesn't compare to my worst day with God. Yeah. Like, wouldn't trade it at all. 1,000%.
That's wild. On Wednesday night, somebody literally said something about that. It's in the Bible. It's where he says, I'd rather be it was like, I'd rather be a janitor in the house of the Lord than a king in the world.
Come on.
And I was like, yo,
it's just wild. So true. Because I'm like, because, like, you're here, he's here with all his promises. Like, I am protected. Like, I'm, you know, mostly protected because, listen, first of all, I'm not a good driver. So, like, if all he ever did was protect me and get me from point A to point B, it would be more than enough for me. But anyways, okay, so let's talk about kind of, like, right here, right now. Like, what's the most exciting thing God's doing in your life? What are you excited about?
The most exciting thing?
Yeah.
I guess there's this new chapter. I just finished high school, so moving into college, just figuring out the ropes there. I feel like God's definitely introduced me to more people, find a new brotherhood that is there and walking with me.
Okay, so describe what godly brotherhood looks like.
Godly brotherhood?
Okay. I know there's, like, bros before hoes. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what does godly brotherhood look like, though?
Godly brotherhood?
Like, in a world that would tell you, they paint a good picture of what it looks like, but godly brotherhood, what's it look like?
So, the godly brotherhood that I found, so before, whenever I was hanging out with all these other people who I would call my brothers, we weren't doing all the right things. We were drinking, we were smoking, we were going to all these parties, we were doing all these things, and you didn't have peace within that. Like, you felt insecurities. Were you having a good time? Was I having a good time? Like, in the moment, I was having a good time. That's what I'm saying. So, in the moment, like, because we're not going to be fake. Like, obviously, you kept doing it. It's fine.
Yeah. I did it. It's fine, you know, but you didn't have peace. So, it costs you something. Yeah. Like, it costs you something.
Like, I was struggling with anxiety, depression. And whenever I would tell these guys this, and they were just like, here's a blunt. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's how we're taking care of it. Yeah. But then whenever I found my godly brothers, it was like, these guys are here to walk with me through it. Like, we talk about everything. We talk about our struggle with lust. We talk about our struggle with drugs. We talk about all these different things. And at the same time, we're relating it back to Bible. We're relating it back to all these different things. And then whenever we're ready to go out, once we have found peace within ourselves, we go out and we preach the gospel to people who need it, like people who are actually struggling. And that's what the godly brotherhood really means for me.
And even to, like, break that down a little farther, I'll never forget being in a life group setting, like, we're meeting someone's house, like, people from church, and for the first time ever, that heard a man, like a grown married man, admitting, like, I struggle with suicidal thoughts, or I have, and I'm just like, I've never heard a man like, because especially in my culture, I don't know, it's like you are is very like macho man, very like alpha male, like you don't talk about it, you know, like, and you wake up and you work, or you drink about it, and then you wake up and you go to work the next day, and that's it, you know. And so like to see someone else just like that like broke me, you know, just because I'm like, I don't know. I didn't look at him any weaker. I looked at him like that's what strength really looks like, to be able to, because that's scary to sit in this room with people that might look like they have it together and admit that. So for you, like, when did you start feeling comfortable, like opening up, letting other people in, and like how did that affect you?
So whenever I first got to church, whenever I was first invited, it was by my one of my close friends. His name is Cody. And he invited me, and I remember the first thing the pastor asked was, "Who's your favorite artist right now? Favorite rapper?" My first instinct was, "It's NBA YoungBoy." Like that's just, and like we would come and go, and it was just like we would come high, we'd leave high, and we just come like every so often, and it wasn't until I had that incident to where I was losing everything and I came back to the church that was like, it was so much easier for me to open up, because I was like, God's already changed it for me.
Already wrecked you.
And that's why, so I think really it was whenever I realized that I could forgive everything that happened. Like it all happened for a purpose. And so it allowed me to forgive, and it allowed me to say, this is my testimony and I'm going to use it and spread it to help other people.
And when you talk about forgiveness, like, if he wants to, we'll get into that. Like, just because I've had the privilege that you felt like, I do. Like, it is a privilege that you've shared your story with me. This is a big major deal, because it's not just like someone did you dirty, someone, you know, did, like, I want you to tell them, like, what that looks like for you, like on like the deepest level of forgiveness. Again, I mean, he already exposed his red flags, guys. What else is there even left? I mean, tell him.
So whenever I think I was like 10, maybe 11, I had my mom was in this relationship, and he was a traveling minister actually, and I remember I would wake up and he would have my little brother on the bed just hitting him for no reason. I was like, "Why'd you hit him?" And he was like, "Because he changed the TV channel." I was like, "Bro, what? Like, why?" And then I remember his son came in and was like, "I think I need to drop out of physics, change classes." It was like the first semester, the start of the school year. He was like, "I can't do physics. Like, I can't understand it." And his dad picked up a chair, broke the chair, and then threw like the long knife sharpening blade right at him, almost cut off his ear. And I was like, "Why'd you do that?" And he was like, "I wish I would have hit him." I was like, "Bro, what?" And so then my mom was about to get married to this guy, and it was like 2 weeks before the wedding. My mom was like, "I think we need to call it off." And he picked her up and threw her against the wall, did all this crazy stuff. And then finally my mom just moved out. And she didn't tell us any of that happened until later on. And when she told us, I just got a lot of anger inside. I was like, how come somebody of the church do this? Right. Or of the church do this? And so it built up a lot of anger, and I left the church. I was like, I don't see, like, how could God let this happen? And so I left the church, and then later on, I realized, man, like, I was church hurt, not hurt by God. And so I forgave him, and then whenever I forgave him, it was just like, it was peace in that situation. And I still pray for him to this day, and he's married now. He has 2 little baby girls, and I still pray for him. I still wish him the best. But at the time, I was like, man, this forgiveness thing is hard. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah. And then I think that, like, one thing is to receive the gift of salvation, like when you had that moment with God, to receive the gift. But then, like, healing, like that process, like,
it's a long process. I still go through it to this day. Right. Literally, just yesterday, somebody walked into the restaurant. Just at my old stepdad was a pretty large guy. He was big, buff, and somebody walked in and looked exactly like him. And I almost broke down crying. I didn't know what to do. And so it was like a sense of like, I have to forgive this person. And so I walked up to the table, I greeted them, I told them what's up. And then in the back of my mind, I'm saying for a prayer for them the whole time. And so I'm just like, I'm still in the process of healing from what happened.
Absolutely.
But as I heal, I grow closer to God. And I just keep growing and growing.
And I think that it's such a like the temptation of the enemy is to pick back up unforgiveness, and you know what that life looks like, you know where that led you, and so that like we're always constantly reminded, like it's not that the forgiveness itself feels so good, but the freedom attached to the forgiveness, like that's priceless.
Yeah. I just thought, I feel like as you grow, the devil attacks you harder. So there was this saying, I heard, I forgot his name, but a pastor was all like, new levels, new devils. And I was like, man, that's powerful. Like for every stage that I was getting stronger, it was like the devil kept attacking me harder. So even whenever I was getting stronger, and so before I found God, I was going back to church. And then that's whenever I lost my best friend, I lost my grandpa and all that. And that's what made me like take a step back and was like, am I doing the right thing? And it was just because the devil's going to keep attacking you the stronger you get.
I think that's so much wisdom, because now I look at it as like, so like a red flag is bad, right? Like, okay, right. So you're thinking like, I'm going through it. Like, are you mad at me or what? Because like the way you're not letting up off my neck right now, like what am I doing wrong? But a lot of times like it's a green flag. Like I must be in the whole will of God if you're sending all of your demons after me right now. But you know, that's where it's like the word is alive and active and true. Like though the weapons are formed, like they won't prosper, but like they are surely being formed. So I just want to hold space for like one, thank you for sharing with us. I think that like that's not something easy to go through at all, much less like again like share publicly, and like who knows how many people this will reach. But like I have faith that it lands on the right ears, that encourages the right person, and that not just that like you're a survivor and you came out of it, but just like you are so free in every like beautiful thing that God's doing. Like that's like I love watching that. You inspire me so much. I think if you could encourage anyone, like before we wrap it up, if you could encourage anyone who is either like in that situation, one, we're praying for you. And even in the description box, I would love to drop like, you know, some resources, things like that, you know, to get help, to get out of the situation. And then, but two, like spiritually, how would you encourage someone who's like either currently in that situation or walking through the healing?
So, I mean, one of the biggest things for me was, we're all called to have a relationship. Like that's where our hearts desire a relationship. And so it's very important that you get plugged in with the right church. And then, so I would say definitely get plugged in with the church. Definitely try to put yourself in those situations to where you meet new people. You learn to socialize with new people. And I think that was one of the hardest things for me, was learning to socialize. But after I got down, it was like a sense of like, it was just healing, and then people are pouring into you, and then at some point your cup will overflow and you'll be able to pour into other people. But
stop, I'm gonna cry or take off running. Like there's nowhere between. It's so good, Caleb.
But then as you are getting poured into and you're pouring over, you'll start experiencing the healing power of God, and you'll start feeling that peace. So one of my biggest encouragements is just keep going, read your word, and pray. Like it don't matter if
pray without ceasing.
It don't matter if you don't even know the words. Just say Jesus, and there's healing within that.
That's it.
So yeah, really just pray. That's
it. That's the word. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Caleb will absolutely be back. He don't have an option. He will absolutely be back. That's like a snippet, like a very small snippet. Now y'all know him. You know he don't know how to flirt, so don't even try it, okay? He's a man of God on a mission right now. But we can't wait to see you guys again.
Yes. See ya.